Once again, my friends, I think we all need to come to terms with one simple fact about life, and that is that sometimes,
it's not about you.
What do you wish people would ask you? What's something that you would like to be asked? Maybe something no one's asked you before. Something you wish people would actively seek to know about you. I'll give a little bit of time for each one just to really think about it. Next question. What subject can you talk about effortlessly? What is something that you can just talk about all day and you don't have to think about it? You don't have to think of things to say. You don't have to feel any kind of anxiety. What's something that's just automatic for you? Next question. What kind of setting feels the most normal for you? What kind of situation, what kind of surroundings, environment, people? What just feels like home? It doesn't have to be a building, it could be outside, it could be an activity. What feels normal for you? What feels like home for you? Next question. What is a compliment that you would love to receive? Maybe something nobody said to you before, few people have said to you. What's something you would love to be complimented on? Next. If you were a god or a goddess, what would your domains be? What kind of abilities would you have? What would you be a god or goddess of, or a deity? What kinds of symbols would you have? What kinds of animals? What kinds of people would you sponsor? Kinds of situations you would appear in? Just really think about that. What would you want to rule? What would you want to lend your power toward if you were a deity? Next question. How does your mind work differently from other people? In what way do you feel that you think differently and maybe people don't quite get you, or you're just wired differently? Next question. What kind of role model have you been overall, in person as well as online?
To me, there's just something so funny about this clip where you see these people and how mad they are, especially the coach, and then you look down at the scoreboard and think like, yo, what the fuck? What are you guys all so mad about? And could you imagine being a player on the other team and you're just getting destroyed all game? You know, it's the fourth quarter. You've pretty much given up. I mean, you're still trying your best and everything, but you just know you're gonna lose, right? You're kind of like dejected, demoralized. And then you look across the field and you see the other team is still playing with this level of intensity. Bruh, I would be petrified. Dude, I would be so scared. I'd be like, yo, coach, sub me out, please, man. These motherfuckers are crazy, bro. They're gonna kill me out here. Mom, come pick me up. I'm scared. Okay, these motherfuckers are gonna kill me. These motherfuckers are crazy. But if you asked a player on Alabama if this was crazy, they'd be like, no, man, that's not crazy at all. What do you mean that's crazy, dude? Because at Alabama, it really doesn't matter what the score is, okay? They could be winning by 100, they could be losing, which doesn't happen often, but sometimes Alabama loses. It could be a tie game, and it doesn't matter how big the game is either. It could be the national championship. It could be just a regular season game, first game of the season. You know, it could be a practice. Hell, it could even be a off-season walkthrough. The point is, at Alabama, they don't make dumbass mistakes that lead to dumbass penalties like this. They don't give a fuck about the scoreboard. The only thing they care about is whether or not they're living up to the extremely high standard that they have set for themselves. And at Alabama, it is unacceptable to not live up to that standard.
There's a habit that is being formed in the minds of just about every other human on the planet. And that is, if you don't like somebody, don't listen to anything that they have to say. But probably what's worse than that is what makes you decide whether or not you like somebody. Most of the time, you know what it is? Because you heard somebody say something about them. That is literally how most people are forming their opinions. I don't like this person because that person said something about them. You know, the first thing that I do when I hear somebody being talked about that nobody likes, I go look that person up and I listen to them talk at great lengths. Great lengths. I will watch hours and hours and hours of footage, listening to everything that they have to say. And I'm not going to form an opinion one way or the other, written in stone for a very long time. This is how I learn. It's how I've always learned. I don't care what you say about this person or what they said about that person. I really don't give a damn. That's not how I form my opinions.
No matter what we do, we are communicating something, whether we are conscious of it or not. In my acting conservatory, we played a game in which one player would stand outside the room and knock on the door with a certain intention, and the other player would stay inside the room and try to guess the intention behind the knock. That was a playful knock. That was a terrified knock. That was a defeated knock. If even a knock can convey the internal state of the actor, then imagine the wealth of information that your posture and gestures and semantics and tone and clothing and expression and movement and attention and status can express. Now, just because every action communicates something with respect to the internal state of the actor, it doesn't necessarily follow that whoever is observing that action can consistently and accurately identify that state. There's always some noise in the transfer information from actor to observer. By the same token, it can also happen that an observer can correctly identify the internal state of an actor of which the actor himself is not even conscious. Therefore, it follows that neither the actor nor the observer is the absolute arbiter of the communication, which requires both positions to exist at all. There's an interesting example from history that nicely illustrates these principles. It comes from World War II, when Allied intelligence was intercepting Morse code transmissions from Nazi agents. Morse code, as you know, is an electric language in which words are spelled out through combinations of dots and dashes, which are created when an operator either presses or holds a button. It's a very mechanical process. However, the Allies who were eavesdropping on these Nazi agents over time came to recognize very small idiosyncratic differences in the way that dots and dashes were created. And they came to associate those differences with individual operators. They called these subtle variations in the creation of the dots and dashes of Morse code fist. And through this recognition, they could track the movements of individual Nazi agents across Europe, and this in turn gave the Allies some insight into the maneuvers of the Axis powers. These agents could not help but impart something of their personality into something as mechanical and impersonal as pressing a button. And they themselves were completely unaware of their tendency to do so. Interesting, huh?
You guys have to understand that I don't make decisions based on logic anymore. Because guess where logic got me? Nowhere. Logic has gotten me absolutely nowhere in my life. Intuition is what has moved mountains. Intuition is what has enabled me to carve out a life in which I can sit in my car at 7:52 in the morning in this random parking lot and film this video and get paid for it. Intuition is my guiding principle, and it can be yours as well. We all have it because we are all of the same universal energetic body. Intuition is the proof of that. Your intuition is proof because when you follow your intuition, things always work out in your favor. Even when it doesn't seem like it initially, things will always work out in your favor. There have been times in my life, especially in these past few years, where I was forced into surrender. And you guys have to understand that surrender is not giving up, it's letting go. Okay, it is letting go of your need to control your reality. your need to micromanage your reality. And what does this look like in practice? Presence. You are present. You are in the here and now. And a lot of people, they don't understand what presence truly means. They conflate presence with degeneracy. They conflate presence with instant gratification. But you have to understand that present moment awareness doesn't necessarily mean that you relinquish the past and the future. It simply means that you utilize the present moment as your means to experience the past and the future. You see, even when you get to the future, you'll still be in the present moment. But a lot of you won't, because you're not even in the present moment right now. And if you're not in the present moment right now, you'll never be in the present moment until you decide to be.
So you see, revenge is not the only way to restore justice when an injustice has occurred. I would argue that the healthiest form of restoring justice is in proportion to the crime. For example, if someone hits your car, getting them to pay for damages, but not screaming at them and making them feel like the scum of the earth for an accident. Not all crimes are the same, and there is a way to restore justice without lashing out at the offender. There's this thing called the comparative suffering hypothesis versus the understanding hypothesis in the literature on revenge. So the comparative suffering hypothesis means I feel terrible about what you did, and I want you to feel as terrible or worse. The understanding hypothesis is this idea that if I enact revenge on you, it's because I want you to understand that you did something wrong. So in other words, do people enact revenge to make the other person suffer, or do they do it because they want the other person to understand why the revenge was taken? And really, in the literature, there are mixed findings, and it depends on a lot of different variables. But even if the understanding hypothesis is true, even if you're just enacting revenge to get the other person to understand what they did wrong, there are still other ways to get the other person to realize they did something wrong. You don't have to jump to retributive justice, aka revenge. You can also seek justice in a less punitive manner. Therefore, in my personal opinion, the TLDR of this video is the best revenge is indifference, or if justice must be restored, something really bad has happened, in proportion to the crime.
If your fear is coming from a place of insecurity, if your fear is coming from a place of, oh, what if something just happens that, I don't know, that I'm gonna that I'm uncomfortable with it. What if something happens like if it's not a major consequence is what I'm saying, then most likely the fear or the anxiety is coming from either a lack of confidence or a need or a desire for perfectionism. That's usually what it is. If it's a situation where you're not doing it and you keep postponing it because you're playing things out in your head of how it's going to go over and over and over again, just thinking about everything that could go wrong, that is perfectionism. That is the desire for everything to work out perfectly and nothing go wrong. And nothing in life is ever perfect. Like again, today I spilled coffee in the middle of the day and I just moved on from it. It was a small thing. I was embarrassed. I felt bad. I told the guy that I spilled the coffee that, I was like, sorry, I apologized. I should have bought him another coffee. I can still do that tomorrow or some other time. I could, make up for it. But, mistakes happen. Mistakes are a part of life. Mistakes are how we improve ourselves and learn. So I guess my point here is I have no idea what the situation is that you're afraid of. If it's something that you're trying to save yourself from a little bit of embarrassment, is it social anxiety, or is it something that, hey, you know, you're scared because it could have a major impact on your life? Um, But if it's something to do with confidence, you need to trust yourself. You need to trust that you have the ability to handle anything that can go your way. And let's just say that it doesn't go the way you want it to. Let's just say that something bad happens or mistakes were made or everything that you were afraid of turns out to be true. So what? I mean really, like what is that going to do? Like what is the outcome going to be, you know? Um you can move on. You can try again, or you can make up for things that have gone wrong. There's always more time, you know?